The cry in the ice wind. The wind howled like a wild beast. The sky above was white, filled with endless snow. Ice covered the ground like broken glass, and the air was so cold it could freeze skin in seconds. John Carter wrapped his coat tighter and checked his scanner again. He had come to planet Zarnok as part of a research mission, but the storm came fast. Now, he was alone, stuck in a broken shelter in the middle of the Arctic region. His fingers shook as he tried to fix the heat core. It was his only hope to survive. But then, beep, beep. His scanner picked up something strange. A sound. Not wind, not machine, a cry. Faint. Weak. Like a child. John's eyes narrowed. Is someone out there? He whispered. He put on his thermal gear, grabbed a flare, and stepped into the storm. The cold hit him like knives, but the sound was still there. Crying, soft and broken. He walked through the snow, step by step. His boots sank deep. Visibility was near zero. Then, he saw a shape small, curled, half buried in snow. He ran forward and knelt down. It was a girl, an alien girl. Skin light blue, hair white like snow. Her clothes were torn, her fingers red and stiff from the cold. She wasn't moving. Her lips were blue, her eyes half open. "Hey," John shouted. "Can you hear me?" "No." Answer. He touched her neck. Faint pulse. Still alive. Barely. Without thinking, he lifted her in his arms. She was cold as ice and light as feathers. He turned back, fighting the wind, and rushed toward his shelter. Inside, he placed her on the heating bed. He removed her frozen clothes carefully and covered her in heat blankets. Her skin began to glow faintly. Not human. Definitely alien. But she looked like a child, 10, maybe 11. John gave her warm drops of water through a small tube. He rubbed her hands, trying to bring back warmth. "Come on," he whispered. "You're not dying today." The heat core blinked weakly but held. Minutes passed. The wind outside screamed. But inside the shelter, silence grew heavy. Then suddenly, she coughed. John turned quickly. The girl blinked slowly. Her eyes were deep violet. She looked scared. Her lips trembled, trying to speak, but no words came. "It's okay," John said, holding his hands up. "You're safe here, I won't hurt you." She stared at him like a frightened animal. John noticed her feet were bleeding. Carefully, he cleaned the wounds and wrapped them in soft cloth. While treating her, he saw something on her back. A strange mark. A glowing symbol, like fire trapped under skin. What was that? Suddenly, the radio crackled. John turned and adjusted. An alien voice spoke in static tones, but a translation came through. "Let her die in the snow. She is cursed." John froze. "What the hell?" The message repeated. Same cold voice. "Do not bring her in. Let the wind take her. It is the law." John looked back at the girl. She stared at him with wide, helpless eyes. A tear rolled down her cheek. He didn't know her name. He didn't know why she was out there. But he knew one thing. He couldn't leave her. He sat beside her and placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "No one's dying in my care," he said softly. "You're not a curse. You're just a child." The shelter's lights flickered, and the wind outside roared like it was angry. But inside, the little alien girl closed her eyes and for the first time, looked at peace. John didn't know it yet, but this moment would change his life forever. Because this was no ordinary child, and powerful eyes across the stars had just seen what he had done. The alien girl slept quietly, but her breath was shaky. Her glowing skin flickered, like a dying flame trying to stay alive. John Carter sat near the heater, watching her. He had added extra fuel to keep the shelter warm. It was dangerous. He had limited supplies, but he couldn't let her freeze again. Suddenly, her body twitched. Her hand reached out in her sleep, fingers curling as if grabbing something in the air. Then she whispered something. "Ria." John leaned in. "Is that your name?" She didn't answer. Outside, the wind screamed against the shelter, walls like a warning. But the storm wasn't the only thing howling that night. Suddenly, boom, the shelter shook. John jumped up. He grabbed his scanner. Something was flying above, circling like a hawk in the snow. He turned off all lights and peeked through the ice window. A black drone, alien-made. Red lights blinking. It hovered above, scanning the area. John's heart pounded. "They're looking for her," he whispered. He checked the shelter signal blocker. Still active. They couldn't trace her, yet. But they were close. Just then the radio buzzed, again. Static at first, then a harsh voice in alien tongue. The translator crackled to life. "The child must be returned. She is not to be saved. She carries death." John's eyes narrowed. Death? He looked back at the girl. Her skin was glowing brighter now. She was sweating. Her body shook under the blankets. Something was wrong. Suddenly she screamed. A burst of blue energy exploded from her chest, just for a second, then vanished. The lights in the shelter flickered. John rushed to her. "Hey, you're safe! You're okay!" But her eyes were wide open now, glowing bright violet. She looked terrified, not of him, but of herself. "Valtesh," she whispered. The scanner beeped wildly. Power levels inside the shelter dropped by 30%. John checked the systems. Her scream had somehow drained the power. Who was this girl? John sat down slowly. He needed answers. He accessed the alien database he had downloaded earlier in his mission. He typed the word she spoke. Valtesh. One result appeared. Old records. Ancient. Mostly redacted. But one thing was clear. Valtesh was the name of a forbidden bloodline. She was born from enemies. Two alien races who once fought a brutal war. Her birth was not allowed. She was marked by both sides. As a curse. That's why they left her to die in the snow. Not because she did something wrong, but because of what she was. John felt sick. "So you were just thrown away?" He stood, up, clenched his fists. He couldn't believe it. He looked at her, so small, so scared, shivering under a heat blanket. "No," he said aloud. "They don't get to decide your worth." Suddenly, knock, knock, knock. A sharp sound at the shelter door. John froze. Then a voice came, speaking calm and cold. "Human, we know you have the girl. Step out. Do not protect what you do not understand." He moved to the door but didn't open it. He shouted back, "She's just a child." The voice replied, colder now. "She is not a child. She is a weapon waiting to explode." Then silence. John listened carefully. Footsteps in the snow. Fading. They were gone. For now. He locked the shelter tighter, reinforced the heat core, grabbed his pulse rifle and sat next to her again. She was asleep again, but her tiny hand had reached out, and now rested gently on his. John stared at their hands. So different, so far from home. Yet somehow they were not alone anymore. He whispered, softly, "You're not a weapon. You're just a scared little girl, and I'm not letting them take you." But deep inside he knew. This wasn't just about saving her. This was about stopping what she could become, or helping her become something better. Outside the storm still roared, but inside the fire of defiance had been lit. The morning came, but the sun did not rise. On planet Zarnok, the Arctic never saw sunlight, only a pale blue glow from the frozen clouds above. John hadn't slept. He sat beside the alien girl all night, his pulse rifle in hand. Outside. No more knocking, no more drones, only silence. But silence on Zarnok didn't mean safety. The girl finally opened her eyes. She blinked slowly as if the world still confused her. "Do you remember anything?" John asked softly. She tried to speak. Her lips moved, but no sound came. John pointed to himself. "John," then pointed to her. "You?" She placed a hand on her chest and barely whispered. "Kalira, Kalira," he repeated gently. That's a pretty name. She gave a tiny smile. But then her face turned to fear. Her body tensed. Her hands shook. John saw it again. The mark on her back, glowing brighter now. Last night it had only shimmered like a dying ember, but now it pulsed like a heartbeat of fire. He leaned closer. What is that? Suddenly her body jerked. She rolled off the bed and curled up on the floor, breathing fast. Hey, it's okay, John said, moving to her side. But Kalira's skin burned hot to the touch. Her eyes rolled back. Then it happened. A blue light exploded from her spine. The glowing mark turned into a full pattern, ancient writing and shapes spreading like tattoos across her back. Symbols John had seen only once before, in an ancient alien vault sealed long ago. Symbols of destruction and prophecy. He backed away, shocked. His scanner buzzed wildly, showing an energy spike. The shelter's alarm system lit up. Warning, power surge detected, life-form mutation in progress. Mutation? No. She was still just a girl, right? Kalira gasped and collapsed again. The lights dimmed. The energy faded. John rushed to her, picked her up and placed her back on the bed. Her body was warm again, normal, but the mark, it stayed. What was she becoming? Or was she returning to something her people feared? John connected his scanner to the mark and recorded its pattern. He uploaded the image into the alien database. The answer came fast. The translator blinked twice and displayed one word. Valerix, John. Frowned. That word again. He had seen it in old ruins, a forbidden bloodline, a hybrid born from war. He checked deeper. The symbol was used only on beings believed to hold both creation and destruction inside them. Kalira wasn't just a cursed child, she was something ancient. Suddenly another alert flashed. Someone was outside again, but this time not just drones. A dropship. John looked out the window. He saw shadows in the snow. 5 figures, armed, moving toward him. He whispered, "They're not here to talk." Kalira sat up, weak but alert. She looked into his eyes, then slowly she reached for his hand. A single word escaped her mouth. Run. John nodded. He packed quickly, took food, heat packs, his rifle, and a small med kit. Wrapped Kalira in thick layers. The back hatch of the shelter opened with a loud hiss. Cold air rushed in like knives. He carried her out and began walking, fast toward the northern ridge. It led to an abandoned mining system under the ice, a place few dared to enter. Behind them, the ship landed. Red lights blinked through the mist. Voices shouted, "Secure the hybrid, shoot the human if he resists." John gritted his teeth. Resist? You have no idea. He ran faster, carrying her over the snow. She clung to him tightly, eyes wide, heart racing. The mark on her back glowed again, brighter this time, and far behind them, a figure in black armor stepped out of the ship. He looked at the trail in the snow and smiled cruelly. "Let them run," he said. "The awakening has begun." Snow sprayed around John's boots as he ran, each step sinking deep into the frozen crust. The wind hit his face like glass, and the cold bit into his bones. But he didn't stop. In his arms, Kalira clung to him, her body trembling, not just from cold, but from fear. Her glowing back was dimmer now, but the mark still pulsed like a living thing. Behind them, voices shouted through the storm. "Target moving north. Do not fire on the girl, yet. Capture the human alive if possible." John ducked behind a rock outcrop, panting hard. He checked the scanner. 4 heat signatures were moving fast, less than 100 meters away. They were gaining. He looked at Kalira. "Can you walk?" She shook her head slowly. "Legs. Too cold." John bit his lip. He couldn't outrun them forever. But then, he remembered something. A map flashed in his mind. He had studied this area before. "Hold on," he said. There's a tunnel, an old mining shaft. We'll lose them there. He turned left, toward a cliff wall hidden behind thick snow. Lasers fired behind him. Blue. Bolts melted snow where they landed. Kalira closed her eyes and whispered something in her own language. Suddenly, the snow around them twisted. It didn't just blow, it moved, almost like it heard her voice. John didn't stop to think. The storm grew stronger, forming a wall of white behind them. The aliens shouted in confusion. John reached the cliff and brushed off the ice. Beneath it was a sealed hatch, old, rusted, but still here. With all his strength, he pulled the handle. It groaned, then gave way. The hatch opened, and darkness welcomed them. He climbed down a broken metal ladder with Kalira in his arms. Once they were inside, he shut the hatch. The howling wind outside faded. Now they were in a dark tunnel. Cold, but no longer deadly. John used his flashlight. The walls were made of black rock and rusted steel. This was once a deep mining colony before it was abandoned. He laid Kalira down gently on an old supply bed and gave her water. "We'll rest here, just for a bit." She looked at him with tired eyes. "Why, help me." John sat beside her and smiled. "Because no one helped me when I needed it once. I won't let that happen to you." She stared for a moment, then slowly nodded. But peace didn't last. A low hum echoed through the tunnel. The scanner blinked red. They found the hatch. John stood and aimed his rifle at the tunnel entrance. "They're coming," he whispered. Kalira sat up weakly. Her hands glowed again, but she looked scared of her own power. I don't want to hurt anyone," she whispered. "But they want to use me, to break worlds." John looked at her. "Then we won't let them." He placed his hand on hers. "But if you don't stand up now, they'll never stop chasing you." Kalira nodded. She closed her eyes, and her body began to glow softly. The mark on her back lit up again, filling the room with blue light. Outside, the aliens entered the tunnel. Footsteps, heavy boots. "Signal strong. She's in here." John raised his weapon, heart pounding. He wasn't a soldier, he was just a researcher. But for her, he'd become whatever he had to be. Then Kalira stood. Still weak, but standing. Her eyes glowed violet. Her hair floated slightly, like the air around her was charged. She walked to the center of the tunnel. Her voice echoed with strength. "Stop." The aliens halted, their weapons ready. One of them, a tall one in black armor, stepped forward. "You do not belong with him," he said coldly. "Come with us. Fulfill your purpose." Kalira looked at John, then back at the alien. She spoke with new strength. "He chose to protect me when my own people left me in the snow." She raised her hand. The mark on her back blazed like fire. The tunnel walls shook. The aliens backed away. "This is your last warning," she said. "Leave us." The black-armored alien smiled cruelly. "So be it. Let the stars witness what you've become." He turned and vanished into the tunnel, shadows with his team. John lowered his rifle, heart still racing. Kalira fell to her knees, exhausted. He caught her before she hit the ground. "You were amazing," he said. She whispered, scared. He hugged her gently. "Me too. But we'll face them together." Far above, in the orbiting warship, red eyes watched everything, and a single word was spoken by an unseen voice. "Activate Phase 2." The tunnels grew darker the deeper John and Kalira went. Their footsteps echoed off the cold metal floor. Strange machines sat frozen in dust, abandoned long ago by miners who never returned. Kalira leaned against John. Her legs were weak. Again, and her glow had dimmed. "We can't stop here," John whispered. "They're still tracking us." The path split into two tunnels. One led down, even colder. The other was filled with collapsed rubble. John chose the cold. After nearly 30 minutes, they found it. A hidden chamber sealed by a thick frozen door. The scanner beeped faintly. John placed his palm on the panel beside the door. A quiet click, then the ice cracked. The metal door groaned open. They stepped inside, and what they saw made them freeze in place. Dozens of cryopods lined the walls. Inside them, figures just like Kalira, blue skin, glowing marks, frozen in sleep. Kalira stepped forward slowly, her eyes wide. "My kind," she whispered. "They were here?" John looked around. The pods were dead. No power. These people had been asleep for years, maybe decades. He found a console and wiped off the dust. The screen flickered. One word appeared. Project Valyrix terminated. Kalira stared at the glowing text. Her body trembled. "They were like me. Half-bloods," she said. "All hunted, all marked." John gently pulled her away from the pods. "This place is a graveyard, Kalira, but it might also be a clue. We need to find out why they were kept here." In the corner of the chamber, John found a locked cabinet. Inside it, an old data cube. He inserted it into the console. Hologram appeared. A tired-looking alien doctor spoke. "To any who find this, and we tried to save them. The children born of both bloods, they were not evil. They were powerful, yes, but only because of what we made them. The leaders feared that power, so they ordered them erased." The doctor paused. "We hid the children here. But the hunters came. We couldn't stop them. If you're hearing this, protect the last one. She is the key. Her name is Kalira." John turned to her in shock. You were always meant to survive." Kalira looked at him with tears in her glowing eyes. "Then why does it still hurt so much?" He knelt beside her. "Because they made you feel like you were wrong, but you're not. You're a miracle, not a curse." Suddenly, alarm lights blinked red. Motion sensors activated. Footsteps again. "They found us," John said, standing quickly. Kalira stood, too, but her body was weak. "I can't fight again." John checked the map on the console. There was a secret tunnel, one that led to a hidden exit beyond the cliffs. He pointed. "There. We run now, or we don't run at all." As they opened the hidden tunnel door, voices echoed behind them. "They found the vault. Send the command team in." John and Kalira entered the narrow tunnel. It was wet, dripping with ice, but it sloped upward, leading to freedom. Halfway through, Kalira collapsed. "I can't move." John dropped to his knees, pulling her up. "I'm not leaving you here." Tears froze on his cheeks as he carried her once more. Behind them, the sound of plasma rifles grew louder. Then Kalira spoke softly. "Put me down." "No. Please. I can buy you time." John shook his head. "Not a chance. I didn't come this far to lose you now." She weakly smiled. "Then run faster." At last, light appeared ahead. A broken exit gate covered in snow. John pushed forward with all his strength. They burst through it, out into the cold winds once more. But this time the sky above wasn't empty. A human ship hovered overhead. Kalira looked up in shock. "That's not them," a voice crackled in John's earpiece. "Unknown human signal detected. This is Earth Outpost Delta. Do you require aid?" John's voice cracked as he shouted, "Yes, we need evac. We have a survivor. Code Valyrix." There was a pause. Then the voice replied, "Confirmed. Stay in place. Extraction team inbound." Kalira looked at John. "You called for help?" He smiled through the frost. "Told you. I'm not letting them take you." Above them, the human ship descended like a silver guardian, and somewhere behind them in the dark vault, alien eyes watched with fury. The last Valyrix had escaped, but not for long. The human ship touched down in a swirl of snow and roaring engines. Wind blasted across the frozen land, and John held tightly to Kalira as the ramp lowered. Two soldiers in heavy winter armor rushed down with medkits and scanners. "Vital signs low," one said. "We need to stabilize her now." John gently handed Kalira to them. She was half-conscious, whispering in her language. Her body shook and the glowing mark on her back flickered like a broken signal. The other soldier looked at John. "What is she?" He replied, "She's a child. She's hurt, and she needs our help. That's all that matters." The ship lifted, off just as black dots appeared in the distance, enemy soldiers arriving too late. From the sky, the icy planet looked peaceful, but deep below the surface, cracks were spreading in more than just the ice. Hours passed. The ship reached a secret, human outpost built under the mountains of Zarnok. It was quiet, clean, and far from the war zones. Kalira was placed in a healing chamber. Blue light covered her body. Machines scanned her blood and bones. John sat outside the chamber, tired and angry. He had questions, many. But most of all, he wanted to know if she would live. A doctor approached. "She's stable for now, but her cells are changing rapidly. The mark on her back isn't a scar, it's a living symbol. We don't fully understand it." John nodded slowly. "She didn't ask for any of this." The doctor leaned in, lowering his voice. "John, there's something else. Her energy, signature. It doesn't match any known species. It's older, ancient." "What are you saying?" "She's not just rare. She might be one of the first." John's eyes widened. "The first what?" The doctor walked away without answering. Inside, the chamber, Kalira opened her eyes slowly. Her vision was blurry, but she saw John through the glass. She placed her small hand on it, and then everything went wrong. The lights flickered. The earth rumbled. Suddenly, crack. The ground beneath the base shook violently. Walls split. Pipes burst. Ice sprayed into the room from a fissure in the ceiling. An alarm blared. "Warning. Tectonic instability. Ice shelf collapse detected." Kalira screamed. The healing chamber sparked and shut down. John smashed the emergency release and pulled her out just before the ceiling split open. A giant crack ripped through the center of the base like the planet itself was screaming. They fell down a metal slope as the floor collapsed beneath them. Darkness swallowed them whole. John woke up buried in snow and ice. His head throbbed. The air was thin, cold. He coughed and sat up. "Kalira?" No answer. He turned, his heart racing, and saw her lying nearby, barely moving. He crawled over and held her close. Her eyes opened weakly. "Where are we?" He looked up. They were in a cavern, a hidden place under the base. Walls of pure blue ice surrounded them, and in the middle, an ancient structure. It looked like a temple made of dark stone, glowing softly with symbols that matched Kalira's back. She saw it too. "I've seen this in my dreams." John helped her stand. Together they stepped closer. The symbols pulsed brighter with every step Kalira took. The air became warmer. The pain in her body began to fade. Her glow returned, stronger than before. "This place is alive," she whispered. "It was calling to me." Suddenly the structure responded. A part of the wall slid open, revealing a glowing stone seat surrounded by floating crystals. Kalira stepped forward. Her body moved on its own. She sat in the seat. The moment she did, light exploded outward, filling the cave. John shielded his eyes. When he looked again, the floating crystals had formed a ring around her, and Kalira was no longer weak. She rose into the air slowly. The mark on her back turned gold. Her eyes burned bright. Her voice echoed with power and calm. "I remember now. I was not abandoned. I was hidden. They feared me, because I carry the memory of 2 galaxies." John stood frozen. "Kalira?" She landed gently and turned to him. Her face was the same, but her presence felt different, older, wiser. But before she could say more, another quake struck. Above them, part of the ceiling collapsed again. Voices shouted through the cracks. The enemy was digging down. John pulled her close. "We need to leave now." Kalira nodded, but this time she didn't seem scared. "Let them come," she said softly. The ice may break, but I won't. The ground shook again. Ice cracked above their heads. The ancient chamber groaned as snow and rocks fell from above. John grabbed Kalera's hand. We need to move, now! But she didn't run. She turned and looked at the center of the glowing temple one last time. I was meant to die in the cold, she whispered. But this plate, it saved a piece of me, a memory, a power my people tried to bury. From above, enemy voices echoed through the cracks. Drill through the ice. Target below, alive. Send everything. John raised his weapon and pulled Kalera close. Then we fight. No, she said softly, stepping forward. We don't need to fight. I just have to choose. The symbols in the temple pulsed again. A new chamber opened. Inside was a stone pillar with an ancient symbol on it. Kalera walked toward it. John followed but paused as the air grew thick. Kalera, what are you doing? She placed her hand on the stone. The whole cave rumbled. Suddenly, a beam of golden light shot up into the sky, cutting through the ice above them like fire through paper. The enemy soldiers stopped drilling. They stared in fear as the light burst into the clouds. Kalera floated in the air again. Her eyes burned bright gold. Her voice echoed through the frozen land. You tried to destroy me. You left me to die. But I survived. And now I choose my path. Dozens of alien ships appeared in the sky, surrounding the beam of light. From the largest one, a new voice came over the speakers. Kalera, stand down. Come with us. You are property of the Valyrix Initiative. John shouted. Don't listen to them. Kalera turned, slowly floating down until she stood before John. Her glowing eyes softened. They never saw me as a person, she said. Just a weapon. And what do you see now? John asked. She looked into his eyes. I see a reason to live. Then in front of the watching ships above, she took John's hand. I choose him. Silence filled the sky, then shouts, angry voices from the enemy fleet. Weapons charged. But before they could fire, the beam of light exploded into energy, forming a massive shield around the temple. The enemy ships fired. Lasers, plasma, everything they had. Nothing broke through. Inside the shield, Kalera knelt, placing her hand on the icy ground. The planet itself began to respond. The wind slowed. The storm calmed. John stared in amazement. You're controlling the planet? She smiled. No, I'm becoming part of it. It's choosing me too. Then, she stood tall and looked to the sky. Leave this world. If you don't, I will end your war with one breath. The enemy commander shouted through the speaker. You wouldn't dare. Kalera raised one hand. The clouds above turned dark. Electricity danced. The snow around the fleet lifted like dust. One ship exploded, just from the pressure of the WIM energy. The rest retreated instantly. They knew now. She wasn't just a child. She was the future. Later, the shield lowered. The storm was gone. John sat by a fire near the temple ruins, wrapping Kalera in a warm blanket. You scared me, kid, he said, smiling. But you were amazing. Kalera looked up at him. I don't know what happens next. He smiled gently. Then we figure it out together. She rested her head on his shoulder. Thank you for not walking away. Far in the sky, Earth ships approached. A new signal came, friendly, human, hopeful. John stood with Kalera, watching them come. The ice had cracked, the storm had passed, and a new life, one of freedom, trust, and family, had begun.